The example is a silent sermon. If you, my brother, have been able to reach the life of virtue, then it is your duty to also work to bring others to it. You are therefore responsible to work for the good of people, within the circle in which you live. If you have tasted the sweetness of life and goodness. If you, my brother, have been able to lead me to life, how beautiful it would be for you to invite people to this taste. You cannot give up your spiritual responsibility towards others, if you truly love them. Then you have a spiritual responsibility towards others within the limits of your capabilities. You may not be a clergyman or an intellectual leader, but despite that you can attract people to the spiritual life. By your good example in front of them. Exemplary example is the duty of all, and it is possible for all, and is more useful than preaching and teaching. Preaching presents a theoretical teaching, while an example provides a practical example. He who cannot preach can be a sermon. It can be a practical message that is known and read by all people. Everyone who sees it benefits from its appearance without speaking. He also benefits from his manner of speaking and behaving without preaching. It is known that people benefit from the lives of others more than they benefit from their words. The example also works for those whom you cannot preach. You may preach or teach someone who is younger than you, or less centered or knowledgeable than you, but you may be modest about preaching to someone who is older or higher than you. This is useful for your example. There are also people who do not tolerate preaching and do not accept it. Their pride or self-esteem prevents them from accepting a word of guidance, advice, or a word of instruction or exhortation. Moreover, they also do not tolerate the word criticism. And if you said a useful word to one of them, he might look at you in disapproval and sarcasm and say to you, "You come and preach to me?" All this kind of people may benefit from your example and your kind example that speaks to them in silence. By living by example, you can reach the benefit of others by providing them with a practical spiritual example. By your good behavior, you can attract others to the love of God and the implementation of His commandments. And be a sermon, not a preacher. The Lord Christ, when He washed the feet of His disciples, was a practical example for them and for the world in humility and love. And you, my dear brother, your life among people is supposed to be an example for them and an example and a model set before them, in which they see the practical path to the purity of life, and your practical life in loving others and doing so for their sake, and in your cooperation with them and in their service, but it is a practical lesson that you present, because love is not in words and by the tongue, but by action and the truth. Likewise, if you lived in peace with everyone, with a calm and meek nature, being careful not to anger anyone, you would be a balm of peace and tranquility, without being taught in this matter. The mother of Moses the prophet, who not only breastfed him with her own milk, but also nursed him with the strong faith that was established in him when he lived in the palace of Pharaoh among all the ancient gods, and was not affected by them, but later became a leader of the faith. This mother gave the world a lesson in the duty of motherhood and how to take care of it. The faith of her children. We do not only take an example from righteous people, but Solomon the wise says, "Learn from the ant, you sloth." The text of the verse is, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise," Proverbs 6 verse 6. Believe me, I have never seen an ant stand still in my entire life, as it is always working in an amazing activity that is a lesson for us and an example. We also take a lesson from the grain of wheat that we throw in the ground, and it continues to work until it gives us abundant fruit, first a plant, then an ear, then wheat filled in the ear. It's also a lesson. Rather, we take an example from the earth, which has been revolving without stopping for thousands of years, since its creation, and it has been constantly revolving around its axis, producing in every cycle day and night. Millions of years and it does not stop. You see, if the earth got tired of its rotation, got lazy and leaned a little on its axis to rest, was the world confused? But the earth in its perpetual movement does the work that God entrusted to it, and gives us an example and a lesson that we do not forget. Likewise, the sun is also a silent sermon, as it shines on the righteous and the unrighteous, and gives its light to the deserving and the unworthy. And its light shines for us without us asking, for the sun does not wait for you to ask for light from it, and likewise the moon, but both of them illuminate for you and light the way without asking. And the sun, in its example, enters the house of the king, and enters the house of the servant and the poor. Everyone needs it, and everyone enjoys it, and it does not differentiate between the great and the low, or between the rich and the poor, and its light purifies every place and does not impure it. This is how you are, my brothers, in your treatment of people and in your example of the sun that shines on every Sunday without discrimination. You are all necessary for the benefit of the world. Not only for yourselves, but for the good of all humanity by example. A good person does not only set an example during his life, but his example remains standing and useful even after his death. He is a light that shines through the generations, and his biography does not die with his death, but rather remains an example for people. Rather, if he dies, he speaks after this example. In this regard, I will not mention only some of the well-known saints' biographies. Rather, I remember in terms of example the story of Mahatma Gandhi, the great Indian leader, who set an amazing example in jihad that is completely far from violence. The Brahmin Gandhi Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was the living spiritual proverb of his day who, if he fasted, would shake the English Parliament. And in his enduring pain and persecution without resistance or revenge, he won the admiration of the whole world and the wrath of the cruel rulers of his days. Be an example, my brothers, and thus benefit others without speaking.